In this video, we're going to talk about some of the good things and some of the not so good things about moving to Connecticut. Let's go. Hey, welcome to the channel. My name's Charlie. I'm a Fairfield County realtor. I help buyers find their dream home and I help sellers net the most money possible. Let me know what you'd like to know more about in the comments below. I'd really like to know what we can create content on for you. And while you're down there, don't forget to subscribe. We post new videos every Friday. So we're talking about the pros and the cons of moving to Connecticut. Be aware of some of the videos that I saw when we were preparing for this video that really, quite frankly, had just flat out wrong data. You could do just a simple search on population data as an example and know that some of the information that you're being told is not true. So be aware of that. The other thing is that some people aren't even from the area or they only live in one part of the state. And, you know, we're not a huge state, but there are definitely different cultures and areas and differences between the different areas. So one person's perspective is definitely not a representation of the entire area. So one of the great things about Connecticut is that the career opportunities are pretty good. It depends on what you're doing, obviously, but if you're working for a Fortune 500 company, there are plenty of them here. You have New York City, and you have all kinds of high-level manufacturing. So again, obviously it depends on what type of career you're looking for, but there are plenty of high-paying jobs. The flip side to that is Connecticut's not really well set up for retirees. There's tax structures and the high housing costs just make it just simply not make sense to stay here when you retire. You can go to a place like Florida, you've got lovely beaches, some of the time you have better weather, lower housing costs. It's just better set up for retirees. So when you contrast, say, Florida to Connecticut, it simply doesn't make sense to stay here. People come here and stay here for the careers and they retire somewhere else. So one of the other things that I really love, and I know a lot of people who live here appreciate, is the fact that we have really good dining, amazing restaurants, and some of the best pizza in the country. And believe me, I've tried to find pizza as good as here somewhere else, and it's hard to say the least. So I think that's a positive. I think if there's a con to that, it's that, quite frankly, you're going to crave some of these things after you start to experience them, the certain restaurants, etc. And so that means you're going to need to find a sport or an activity or something to burn off those extra calories. But there's plenty of options there as well. So you shouldn't have a problem finding a way to burn those extra calories. So there is tons of shopping in Fairfield County in specific. I know there are parts of the state that are a bit more rural and there's not a lot of shopping opportunities. So I'm going to speak specifically to Fairfield County because I know it so well. You don't have an issue as far as finding places to shop. A lot of the places that are in the city are out here as well. And the range of availability, in other words, whatever you're looking for. If you want a Ferrari, there's a Ferrari dealer. If you want a Rolex, that's not a problem. If you want a $3 t-shirt, that's not a problem either. So whatever you're looking for here, you're going to be able to find a store to suit that. So what's the drawback of that? I had to think hard on this one, and this is one. It's a tough pill to swallow, but it's true. Some of the lifestyle the opportunities that we have here also means that there's always somebody wealthier than you. And so there's a little bit of keeping up with the Joneses. If your neighbor has a really nice car, or your neighbors in general, it kind of makes you maybe feel, in some cases, a little, inadequate. And so that's something, to be aware of. That's just a reality, specifically more so in Fairfield County than the rest of the state. And, I think you just have to check yourself and understand how lucky and fortunate you are and that, you don't really need, a new sofa or a fancier car. We're all pretty happy as it is with what we have. But it's a challenge mentally, I'll be honest. Alrighty, so the next thing that came to mind as a real positive, certainly for us, and I know many people that we work with, are the school ratings, specifically in Lower Fairfield County. Many of the towns are amongst the best in the country. And even when you go outside of Fairfield County, if you look, you will find towns with public school ratings that are much higher than the national average. So I think the real advantage of that is essentially incorporated into your taxes are private school quality schools, right, at the public school level. So you don't have to spend the extra money to send your kids to private school if you don't want to. The negative to that is the taxes are equal. In other words, we're spending a lot of money on our schools to deliver this high level of education. So that means some of our costs are higher. So, and while we're on that front, our government jobs are, require higher levels of income as well because of our higher housing prices and our higher living costs. So, yes, our taxes are a bit higher. I really believe that we get the benefit, especially if you choose carefully, you choose your town carefully. I think you're going to see that there is a real benefit to paying a little bit more in taxes. You're going to get a higher level of education for your children, and I think most people think that that's, what we want to do for our kids. So, again, it's a balance. The negative is the high taxes, but you get the schools too. All right, one other real advantage, especially as you get older, is Connecticut is really well situated for families, especially if you're comparing to New York, where a large influx of our population growth comes from. You live in New York City, and it's just more challenging. And this is just what people are telling me. I don't have firsthand experience with it, but I can understand how living in a building and not having as many parks, right around the corner, and a car and a backyard and all these things, it's not a big deal when you're single, right? But when you have a family, those are things that you start to want more. So Connecticut in general is well situated for families. I think the drawback, and again, this is really just coming from thinking about a little bit of when I was a youth and from what I'm listening to other people say in a lot of the other videos related about moving to Connecticut, is it really isn't great for younger adults. Many of the more rural areas outside of Fairfield County just don't have a lot for the kids to do. And I do think that's a drawback. I think that's a bit of a bummer in some cases. That basically means that younger people, when they're starting out their first job, they can't have a car and an apartment and a bunch of money to spend at the same time. It's just a little bit more expensive to live here, and those lower jobs when you first start out working, they just generally don't provide enough money to move out of your parents' house and to have a car and to have a bunch of extra money. So you normally have to work your way up in your career a little bit, and then of course the incomes go up, and then you're able to do all of those things. So I think one of the other things that a lot of people love about Connecticut and really New England in general are the 4 seasons. You start off with, say in the summertime, we don't have the most amazing beaches in the world, to be honest there, but we do have a really nice nautical life. If you do love the water, I can tell you, I've been to Hawaii beaches, I've been to Florida beaches, I've been to beaches in the Caribbean, and it's just as refreshing to go in the water here as it is there. But we have a mud bottom here, so our water's a little murkier, and the beaches are a little stonier, so it just isn't as pleasant. But you still get the same refreshment from going in the water. It still is that pleasure, that enjoyment is still there, even though the water's a little murky. So anyway, you go from the summer, you have the beach weather, everybody's out. You come to the fall, it goes a little cooler. We put our jeans back on and our vests. We start to go apple picking and pumpkin picking. If you do Christmas trees, obviously you have that. Come Christmas time, you can go cut your own tree down. So there's a lot of things to do in the fall, Thanksgiving, of course. And there's all these little activities around the fall. It's a little cooler. It's nice to be over that, those hotter summer days. We do have a bit of humidity here, so that's something to think about. And then, of course, we roll into winter. Right after the holidays, we have starts to snow in a significant level where it builds up typically, and you go sleigh riding and building snowmans, and then it comes February and you kind of get sick of it. You're over the cold, and there's another maybe 4 or so weeks where you just kind of want it to be over with. You feel a little cooped inside and just want to get out. Now, if you're a skier, obviously that's not really an issue. You'll be out, you'll be skiing, snowboarding, whatever. And you'll enjoy that weather. But for a lot of us, it's the time of year that's the drawback, I'd say, to the 4 seasons. You get that colder weather in the winter, and if you're retiring, you're getting older, and you feel it in your bones, maybe it's not so great. So, then of course we roll into the spring. Everybody's ready for the wonderful weather. The trees are blooming, the flowers are blooming. It's, we're getting back outside, we're connecting with people again. So, it's, you know, and of course we're leading into summer, so I think that we all look forward to that. So the seasons give you a variation. They give you something to look forward to. There's a change coming. And I think most New Englanders, once you live here and you experience that after a while, you look forward to these things. All right, so another one of the things that our family loves, and I think you're going to love if you're not from the area, if you're already from New York or Mass, you're used to this, but the day trips. From here, about a third of the population is within about 8 hours in either direction. So what that means is there's just so many things to do and so many places to go, whether it's Boston, the Pocono Mountains, Vermont, DC, and probably a bunch of other places in between that I'm forgetting. And if you want to go on longer trips, you can go up to Maine, and you can go down to Outer Banks, so in North Carolina. So there are tons of opportunity for day trips. I really can't think of a drawback to that. It's hard to beat. You know, if you got a family, you throw everybody and stuff and the dog and everything in the car and just go somewhere. That's a really nice thing to have. All right, so the other thing to consider is the higher paying jobs. So there's a reason that housing is more expensive in Connecticut. It's because the jobs are more. So people can afford to pay more, and that's going to result in higher housing costs. So the drawback to that is the higher cost of living. But it's balanced. I mean, obviously, if we couldn't afford the houses, then we wouldn't be paying the prices and they would be lower, but then the jobs wouldn't necessarily be, you wouldn't have the quantity of higher paying jobs that we have in the area. So again, it's a balance. It's a good and a bad. If you're not into working hard, this probably isn't the place for you. If you are, there's tons of opportunities. So, consider that. And I think specifically here in Fairfield County, many of the drawbacks that are mentioned in some of the other videos, if you get a chance to watch them, are, there aren't things to do. That's not the case here. That's a one-sided understanding of the state, and it's just not accurate of the whole state. What you get for that higher cost of living is really great schools in some towns. Those are the school ratings. That's not my personal opinion, right? You've got lots of things to do in Lower Fairfield County if you decide to come here. For New Yorkers specifically, the cost of living here is actually lower for them. So this, again, it's relative. It's higher than the rest of the country, but it's less expensive for a New Yorker to come here out of, say, the city, and the taxes are going to be lower, and they're going to get more space. So again, I wanted to give you these contrasts so that you could make a really good decision for yourself. If you like this video, go ahead and hit the like button below. I would really appreciate it. I'm also going to leave you some links down below to my personal website if you want to do searches in really, quite frankly, in the whole state, but even Fairfield County specific. We have a lot of videos and information there on the site for people like you. And also leave a link to our relocation guide. If you're planning on moving to the area and you want to chat, I would love to talk to you.